Welcome guys, Gonza here from Santiago, Chile, in my studio, my recording studio, and in this video I want to show you this guy right here, the Untitled Plexi. This is a 100-watt version. This is the 1959 SLP. This is a reissue, nothing special holy grailage to it, and I did some modifications, very slight modifications, some components here and there to get it close to the vintage ones, but it's still a reissue, which is very nice, by the way. So this is the sound with everything up. So this is arguably the most famous Marshall amp out there, along with the 800, right? But this is the most famous to my taste, and it's basically the final evolution of the first Marshall amps, which were the JTM 45, which we all know it's coming from a Fender Bassman, right? And there were some iterations of that. The main difference, I think, with this guy, it's the rectifier stage on that amp was tube and this is solid state, so this has like a faster, bolder sound. And this is 100 watt, there's 50 watt versions of course, and there's some combo versions that are closer to the JTM 45, right? Between 67 and 72 it's considered the golden age of this model, and it has a lot of variations, mainly in the choose of the components. The components, Jim Marshall at that time, he put some components, some values, and if he ran out of that component, he would change values, sometimes brand, and that happened with the output transformers, with everything really. So you have a lot of variances in those years of the amp, but between those 5 years, mostly 67 to 72, is the golden age for these amps. The name Plexi comes just because, as you can see, this has a plastic or plexiglass front, which is in those years how they built it. Then it became like a metal thing. Actually, the specialists call it the face metal, or the metal face, right? The metal face, and that's a way to recognize what years we're talking about. So this amp is also known as the non-master volumes. So it doesn't have a master volume. It has two input gains or volumes. This is the input stage of the amp for channel 1 and channel 2, 3-band EQ and a presence, and that's it. It's very clean in terms of, doesn't have switches, nothing. It's just one pure sound. But what players realized in that age was that when they started to crank the volume up, they started to get distortion basically. So it's a clean amp, huge headroom, but in this moment it's kind of clean. If I use a different combination of pickups, my volume. Kind of a single coil thing. So let's check the dynamic range. This moment the loudness one is, let's put it at 4, and everything else is up. I just realized that the second channel is not working. I open it up and maybe some cables not hook up, so I won't show you the jumper version right now, so later. But if I turn my volume up, so it's a beautiful, beautiful crunch sound, and the loudness right now is at 4. One of the modifications that I did, that I'm going to show you now. Yeah, so welcome to my studio. Everything is set up for the close-up and everything, my lights and everything. Yes, and that is my Plexi, my one Plexi. This Plexi is not holy grail or anything, but I did some mods, very simple mods. Starting with the caps, I changed the caps, not values but type, right? So those are the caps that are closer to the mustard vintage ones, right? So this thing here is the breakup, and I'm going to cut it because I never use the amp in low volume situation, so I'm gonna cut it. Doesn't create any difference. I put this switch and I show you that is going to the negative feedback of the amp, so it changes from 47k to 100k with the flick of the switch. Just an option, right? And this green and blue cables is just, I tested a master volume post phase inverter and I didn't like it, and then I put it back to stock, but I couldn't put those cables under the board, so they went up the board. The other thing that I did was I changed the tap for the negative feedback, and the tap, I don't remember really, but I think it's in the 4 ohms now, and it was on the 8, something like that. In the gear page forum I took all those little modifications, and that's it. Sounds great. I have to change those gray caps to more synergy. I have some, but I had to do it. To do it in the board is kind of pain in the ass, but I do it every way. I do it anyway. So now I'm gonna cut that orange guy out of the circuit. And the other thing that I did was I internally bypassed the effects loop. So the effects loop is not connected really. Those cables is totally bypassed. So if I want to use it live, I have to have like another power amp. I actually have that one, the reactive load, and then I'm going to my effects and then to a MOSFET power amp that I have lying around there. It works. It's not the best, but it works. For rehearsals, it's cool. It's cool. So let's go to cut that orange sucker. Marshall case, Marshall back grill, It looks nice. And got. I just got the bright cap. And now we hope anything explodes, right? It shouldn't. It shouldn't. It's the bright cap thing. The bright cap is a condenser that is across the volume 1 that it creates like a very thin and trebly sound in channel 1 when it's it creates a very thin and bright sound when it's the loudness one is not too high. When you crank it, it disappears that effect, but when you're not too high, it's very thin. It's not very usable. So I took it out, and now I have the same sound kind of in different volumes. Of course, I have less gain when the volume is lower, but it's very usable. It's very clean too. It can be clean just with the volume knob. I'm connected directly to the amp, and it's a great sound. It doesn't have much gain, so do a solo with it, it's kind of hard. It's a very vintagey sound. By the way, I'm using my usual cab 4x12 with blackbacks, 77 blackbacks and vintage 30s, so you're hearing a combination. More of the blackbacks, like 3 dB louder. So that my guitar volume is full up. It's almost clean. It's a beautiful sound, but vintage sound. Clearly, I don't know that solo, right? But it's kind of the sound. It's kind of the sound. I don't have a Les Paul to show you, but and all the EQs are straight up the middle, right? So let's check out with this guitar the dynamic range of the amp. The gain range, really. So right now my loudness is at 2, which is very, very, very loud for this amp, but it's a cleaner sound. And it works very well for rhythm stuff. So something like great sound, not too gainy, and if I pull down my volume a little bit with a different pickup, I get full clean sound. I will put this like a single coil. I'm actually not compressing the sound right now because the loudness is not too high, so I lost a little bit of volume, and that is it. That is beautiful. Middle position. Let's go higher in the volume range. Now I'm at 4. It's almost the same, a little bit louder and a little bit gainier. Two. 4. Let's go to 6. You kind of feel a little bit the body and the gain, of course. 2, 6. It's gainier and it's warmer, basically. But it's still very, very dynamic. That is the bridge pickup, Friedman pickup. Nice. Let's go to 8, shall we? Now we're in kind of high gain territory for this amp. It feels great for crunchy stuff now. And it feels, you feel compression and sustain, and it's more comfortable to play leads with it. Because we're at the top of the volume right now, so I'm just getting more sustain. But the dynamic range is right there. It's more compressed, so when I took down the volume, it cleans up, but the volume doesn't go down. So I'm still can get very clean with this amp.